I look tired today, and you think, oh yeah, that probably isn't a good day to start filming a video, but actually it's quite relevant. Got me some Body Shop Elderflower Cooling Eye Gel, and that's supposed to help with the look of tired eyes. So if this works, if there's a visible before and after, get yourself some of this. I'm just trying to use it up. Francis and I have been travelling for about a year and a half now, since November of 2022. So I like to think we're pretty good at it. One of my biggest low-key fears is that we're going to run out of money and have to call our parents up and be like, can you send me some money to come back from gallivanting around in Thailand, please? You just know they wouldn't let us out of the country again, and every little holiday they're making all sorts of snide remarks like, you sure you can come back? It would not be reflective of a grown-up. When you're travelling for that period of time, things are a lot different than when you go on holiday for a couple of weeks. We're going to dive into a few things that they don't tell you about living a nomadic lifestyle. We have been travelling for a year and a half, but I wouldn't classify us as full-time travellers because we were settled for 9 months of that year and a half. And also the most efficient way to travel if you're in a budget is to find a place, an Airbnb, for a month and get a weekly discount on that. You're minimising your travel costs by doing that. You're not getting from one country to another, you don't have to get food on the go, you've got your own kitchen, all that sort of stuff is really, really good for minimising your costs. So effectively what you're doing by travelling, or what we have been doing, that we're classifying as travelling, is spending a period of time somewhere, but that somewhere is a place that we have the freedom to choose. The stuff that we're telling our family about, the really exciting travel stuff, that's probably 40% max of our time. 60%, the rest of it, is staying around the house, getting stuff done. And even in the weeks where we decide that we want to go out every day, where we're somewhere for a shorter period of time because it's more expensive or not somewhere that we want to be for that long, you just get exhausted. Like, yeah, days are absolutely packed and it is so exciting, it really is, and you're so glad that you've done it. But you're really tired at that time. If I didn't have pictures of geolocations, I would forget 90% of what we've done, which isn't a bad position to be in, but it does give you a little bit of insight. Anyway, I would say the 4 main downsides of travelling that they don't necessarily tell you about are you're up in the night. So your sleeping patterns, if you've got any sort of a routine, especially if you're somewhere for a very short period of time, you have to work around the travel options that are available to you. You could have a 19-hour flight, you could have a ship that's for 26 hours. You don't get to decide whether there are delays, you don't get to choose any of that. All you get to choose is what you do in that situation. That leads to all sorts of disruptions, especially if you, like me, do not have a lot of self-control and find yourself reading a book and then go, oh, I don't actually have to be up in the morning, so I'll just read until the end of it, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and you, if you want your 8 hours, will be getting up at 10. That's not healthy, that's not adult behaviour. Then you start stressing about it because in an ideal world you would get up at 6 and do a workout, but you're not a morning person, or at least you think you are, but apparently you're not. And then when you do wake up, the whole day is gone because you didn't wake up at 6 and do your workout, and it's just, that sort of thing is disruptive in itself. The whole travel process is disruptive. You have routines and things around you. When you're going to a new place, you don't have milk in the fridge necessarily. You have to think about that. You have to put time aside to get those essentials done. On top of it, you are up in the night thinking about money and time, and did you get the visa sorted, and do you have the right vaccinations? And all of these things, it is very stressful. My next point, your standards will very much lower. Now, you could choose the best hotels if you had the money and all of that sort of stuff, but you cannot control things like train station toilets. So the other day, I was in Osaka and I needed a wee because I'd had a good amount of water to keep my body healthy. And I went, okay, I'll just go to the loo. Public toilets in Tokyo blew my mind. I've never before preferred a public toilet over an Airbnb. Never, just cannot compute. But the public toilets in Tokyo pretty much all had a heated seat, a bidet, one of those noise things where you press a button and you pretend you're not making any noises in the toilet, that sort of thing. Not everywhere in Japan is like that. Osaka and Kyoto, big cities, they don't, like, they do, but they don't. I will explain. A Japanese style toilet is a hole in the ground, okay? And you think because of how darn good the Japanese Western style ones are, that it would be similar, but every single toilet that I walked past, because I went, oh my god, I'm busting for a pee, I am not gonna be, this is not the time to test out this squat method. I've got shorts on, it's not like I'm wearing a kilt, you know, can't just keep it all out the way. Every single cubicle was Japanese style. I thought, I'm gonna dart on this across the day, I'll find another toilet. I'm not averse to a squat, okay? Most public toilets, I'm like, I'm not sitting down on that. I'm not even gonna get hand sanitizer out. I'm just gonna squat and go. Pretend I was never here. Like a ghost. It smelled of wee and I was just like, I'm not dealing with this. I'll find another toilet. Point being, your standards will lower. Again, on a toilet related note, we have stayed in Airbnb, so we've had to share a toilet. Somebody in my late 20s, I don't want to be sharing a toilet with someone. I can do it. It sounds so stupid. This is the epitome of privilege. But once you've gone through that cycle of, I don't have to share a toilet with people, I have control over my own wee facilities. Yeah, I'm sharing with my partner, but that's different because I can go, you know, there's a certain level of communication there. But if somebody else, some random stranger I have never met, is in the toilet that is my one source of hope right now, how's that gonna work? My bowels don't understand that the freedom has been taken away, okay? They have to wait. They don't know how long they have to wait. You can't exactly knock on the door and go, I'm really busting for a wee. Can you please stop scrolling on your phone, stranger? It's not really the etiquette. I haven't had to do it yet. It is on my mind. Point being, standards are lowered. It's not just the toilets, it's other things like hygiene, like you go into places and there's no soap and you're like, oh my god, I've not heard of coronavirus. You do have to go through moments of discomfort and that is absolutely fine. That is the trade-off. But they are still there. And there's some things that some people are not prepared to sacrifice, like sleep. This week I have had absolutely awful sleep. We commit to places for a month at a time and we can't vet them out beforehand. On the flip side, you know that it's not a permanent situation, but you're not going to make brilliant decisions if you haven't had enough sleep. The third thing I wanted to mention is kind of coalescing with the fourth thing, but it's worth talking about them separately. You do miss home. I would say for the first 9 months to a year, that was the worst for me. I miss home more than Francis does. I'm a woman, I'm very close to my family. There are scientific studies that show that men have got a wider area that they're comfortable over. And I tend to dwell on this sort of thing, so anytime I saw a picture of Oxford, I just burst into tears. I also had moments where I severely miss my cats, right? And that's such a crazy cat lady thing to say. They're with my mum, they're safe, they're pretty darn happy. But I miss them. I just want to pick her up and give her a big cuddle. The smell of home. I want to give my mum a hug. I haven't seen her. I've called her. Like I call her every week, but I haven't seen her. And there's a big smell thing here. I haven't seen her and smelt her. Smelt what home smells like in almost 2 years. It's like with coronavirus, but I didn't have that issue because I was nearby my mum. But it's a bit of a weird situation where you are the person who has decided to leave, and it's not because you don't love them. In our case, it's because we're trying to stretch ourselves and open our worldviews up. You miss them. The fourth and final point I wanted to bring up, which is very much linked with missing home. Home will move on without you. It's inevitable. If you're away for any period of time, it will be different. You will be different, so you'll experience it differently, but also where you think of as home may not be the same. For us, we adore Melbourne, and that's really hard because there are things at home that aren't done as well as in other places that you go to. And it could just be that because we're travelling we notice these things because we need them. But Japan, for example, has got luggage service. You go into a 7-Eleven, have an awkwardly translated conversation with a cashier and get your luggage sent to a hotel. You don't have to take it on the train, you don't have to think about it. We've only done that once and it works, thankfully. But it's so good. There are luggage lockers. They are built to deal with millions and millions and millions of people, and they do it pretty darn well. That is not the case at home, I don't think. I've never had to deal with it. I've never had enough money to go, oh yeah, I will pay 15, 20 quid for something that I could just lug around myself. I've not been in that situation before, so I don't know. Because in the UK, I know enough to get my stuff from A to B. We have access to a car, we have access to friends, we have access to the Oxford Tube, you know? You have a certain amount of leeway where you can just put your bag on your lap and go, yes, this is mine. But if you're travelling with all your worldly possessions in one place, with some trains there are limitations on what you can check in. I haven't seen it where you couldn't put a bag on the train with you, so there's a little bit of uncertainty there. But equally, if you're in a situation like us, you have to get from A to B, so what are you going to do? You have to bring the suitcase along with you. You don't want to be in that position where they say, oh no, sorry, we've got too much luggage, we can't take you on board. that's not going to work. Jumping back to Oz, Melbourne has an amazing public transport system. There are trains and trams running pretty much everywhere, as well as supplementary buses. There is a daily cap, I think it's about $10, so about £5 or £6. They cover so much area, and there's a cap, and it's amazing. I really wish Japan had that, because you spend so much getting, especially in Tokyo, you spend so much getting from A to B to C to D if you're travelling. I think if you're just commuting, it's not as bad because you've got less journeys. But again, it's paper use, and that is totally reasonable. But I just go, please, why can't you have a cab? I need to save my yen for other things. Back to the point. You change because of all these things you see, and you think that's a fantastic idea, and you get used to a certain culture as well. That's not to say your home culture just gets erased, because I was in the UK for the best part of 3 decades, and that doesn't go away overnight. But things move on in your absence. Your family goes through things, and you may not be able to quickly get back, and sometimes it's not a big thing. It's a medium-sized thing, and you just wish you could be there to say, congratulations, that's amazing, and give them a hug. But you can't do that. You can send them a congratulatory message or something, but it isn't the same. You are choosing to be out of their lives for whatever period of time you're travelling. That is your choice. You can't get mad if they leave you out of things. We've both got some quite close friends at home, and our relationships with them have gotten more distant. And how can you blame anybody in that situation? We still talk, and that's important, and when we get back, they're the sort of people that you can just pick up with, but we've not been there. We've made that choice to leave them. That's a form of rejection in itself. That's not going to help your relationship with somebody if you barely see them, barely speak to them. You're not part of their day-to-day, and they're not going to want to hear about the amazing things you did that week, even though it was a very small proportion of your time, because you're out there doing what a lot of people want to do, but equally, in a way, you're staying very stable. You're not having to think about council tax, rising gas prices, all that sort of stuff. That's not affecting you. You are isolated from it. You're outside that bubble. You're not up to scratch at that time with the latest gossip. Time factor is so key, because if you're talking to somebody about a really funny story that's hilarious at the time, it loses some of its luster, and then the conversation that you have with them becomes a little bit more, right, here's a formula. What did you do this week? What did I do this week? Okay, what are we going to do next week? What are we going to do the week after that? And people don't have to stick to it because you're the issue. It sucks. It honestly sucks. Because you're saying, I choose me over our relationship. And that sucks. That's an arsehole move to do. It's not without reason. It's not without foundation. But it's still an arsehole move. So next time you start lusting over somebody's glossy travel pictures, be a bit smug instead. You know that you're sleeping in the same old mattress, but it's your gross stuff that's going on there. Give your family a massive hug because you're there and experiencing life with them. And sit down in your personal toilet. Take as long as you like, because you're not sharing it with some randos from Airbnb. See you next time. You know, the stupidest thing since we've been away, I've been lusting over British castles. I'm obsessed. I keep going, oh, you know, I'd really love to visit the Cotswolds. It's like, that's down the road from your home. Why? Why can't I lust after things that are this side of the world, please? Jeez.